Today on CityCast Denver. Has Denver's experiment with car-free streets come to an end? Producer Paul Caroli was on the 2900 block of Larimer on Sunday to witness the end of a pedestrian-friendly era. He joins me today to explain what happened, why, and break down all the other big stories going down this week. Today is Tuesday, February 4th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Hey, Paul.
Hey, good morning, Bree.
You know what? Let's just start with the fun stuff, because we have this kind of fun thing that we've been following. You started this unofficial contest / guessing game about the amount of unpaid parking tickets in Denver. And I'll be honest, Paul, I have like head cold brain, and I can't remember for the life of me how this originated. Take us back a week or two to why we're thinking about unpaid parking tickets.
I don't remember either.
Okay.
I don't remember why it came up, but I was talking to a friend of the show, longtime guest, CPR's Sam Brash, climate reporter. It's an episode we made a couple of weeks ago, but something about parking. And then I was just like, I don't know why it occurred to me, but I was like, how much money do you think the city is owed right now in unpaid parking tickets? Just like forever. Like there's unpaid parking tickets out there that people aren't paying. How much money is that?
I mean,
what does that amount to?
I think this is a fair question. I know that these are like not apples to apples here, but you know, the budget has been a conversation, right? And there's been concerns about what we need to cut, you know? And so maybe the whatever amount we're about to learn about could be the solution to why we could get our flower beds back at Wash Park.
You'll see. I am so glad to finally have an answer. And when this email came in from the spokesperson for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, I was just beaming all day. I was beaming. I was so happy.
Well, before we get there, what was your guess?
Well, I think at the time my guess was, and I just tossed this off. I honestly didn't even think about it in the moment, but I was like $50 million.
Whoa.
50 million. Why not 50 million? And then Sam was like, 3 million. So after we made this a formal call out to listeners about what people thought, he actually texted me later that day and he was like, I think it was a little higher. I think it was 10 million. So he adjusted his guess.
Okay.
And then I heard from people like all over the place. Our newsletter editor, Adrian Gonzalez, was like 38 million. When I got home from that recording, I was talking to my wife about this and she was like, you and Sam are crazy. That is way too high. It's got to be like a couple $100,000 tops.
Oh.
Our producer Olivia guessed $100,000. I talked to one longtime listener friend of the show, Brad Kaplan of the excellent 3 Stars podcast.
Yes.
He told me he guessed $2 million, but he also put a qualifier on it in the last 5 years, which actually is really relevant.
That's a good point because it's like some of these are unpaid parking tickets from the last 3 months, 6 months, year, 5 years.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I was interested in forever.
Oh,
like
just like
all
sitting on, what are we
parking
sitting
tickets
on?
Since the beginning of time, since the first ticket was issued. But, I don't know. We can get into the results now because that was not available.
What did you find out from Doty?
All right. Well, okay. The other thing was I set stakes.
Oh, you did?
I was like, whoever wins, I'll send you stickers. But if I win, you have to tell a friend about the podcast.
That's right.
I guess all listeners. Listeners, guess what?
What?
I won.
You won?
I'm the big winner. The big winner is me.
Really?
No one guessed higher than me. And the actual number was even higher than I guessed. According to Dottie, we are working to collect approximately $77.6 million from approximately 665,000 unpaid parking tickets since 2019, which is as far back as their data goes. And she also said that number changes daily because obviously they're issuing new parking tickets.
And people are paying
$77 million.
That's crazy. I was honestly more in Megan's camp where it was like under $1 million, honestly. Holy cow.
I know.
That is a sizable, that's no joke.
No, it's like a real chunk of money. Like you could plant a lot of flowers in the flower beds for $77 million.
Wow.
If only we paid our parking tickets, Bree.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys pay your parking tickets. I say this is, no, actually I do. I become a responsible person, but I used to not pay my parking tickets either. So I those of you out there with your Denver boots on your car, I feel you. I've been there, but it's not worth it. Just pay the 25 or 50. Actually, has that number changed, gone up? I don't even know what a parking ticket costs these days.
Yeah, that's the other piece of it. I mean, obviously it depends on the infraction, but apparently they raised the fees for a lot of them in 2022.
Okay.
And actually, since COVID, people, I guess, aren't paying the tickets as much as they were. So the number has increased quite a bit since then.
Interesting. Another impact of the pandemic.
There you go.
Okay. Well, there you go. Speaking of cars, I guess this is a perfect segue. This is our top story. This is what everybody was talking about over the last couple of days. It's pertaining to this one block section of town. In particular, we're talking about the 2900 block of Larimer. Friday evening, like pretty well into the evening on Friday, we got an email. The RiNo Art District sent out an email to their email list about a big change to the 2900 block of Larimer. Paul, what was this change?
Well, the change was that they were going to let cars back on it. Because for the last 5 years, I think with one small break, it's been one of the city's car-free streets. This pandemic-era experiment to make the city more walkable, to open up more outdoor spaces for the public to enjoy. This was one of them. That block where there's the Odell's Brewing, there's the Shake Shack, there's that ice cream shop, Ratio Brew Works, the Block Distilling. That block has been closed off and covered with AstroTurf, and like they've been using it for outdoor dining for pretty much the last 5 years. But as of this weekend, no more.
As of this weekend, I think that part's interesting too, because I think the email said that this was going to happen on Monday, and some other reporting reiterated that. But you went down there on Sunday. What did you see?
Yeah, I went down there on Sunday because some of the local bike activist types, new urbanist people, sent us some emails about a rally they were holding at noon on Sunday. So that's what I went down to see, and just to check out the scene for myself. And I was lucky actually to watch and snap a few pictures of the city truck carry the last piece of infrastructure away. The last barriers were just in the back of this pickup, and it was just driving away. And that was the end of the car-free block that was Larimer. The whole the Block Distilling used to have this shipping container that they used for outdoor dining.
That's right.
And it had been moved onto the sidewalk, where ironically it was now blocking pedestrians on the sidewalk.
Great. Making things going from extreme accessibility to no accessibility for pedestrians.
Temporarily. I mean, I'm sure they'll take care of that. But yeah, it was just a little funny.
This is a bummer. What did people, obviously, like you said, there was this organized protest by some new urbanist folks, cyclists. What did people tell you when you were down there?
Yeah, the mood down there was defiant. These are a lot of people, at least the people there for the rally, were bummed, it sounds like you are. Not everybody is. That's why this happened. And we'll get into that in a minute. But most of the people I talked to were pretty bummed. There was this one guy who was walking through the street. It was weird. It was some cars were going down it, but there were a lot of people just hanging out in the street. It was a weird liminal time between a regular street and this blocked off street. No one really knew how to handle it, but this one guy was just walking down the center of the road smoking a joint, and I was like, "Are you worried that cars are going to come by?" And he was not, and he was also pretty bummed about the whole cars coming back to that block. He was a neighbor. I talked to one woman who came down specifically to have a beer outside from Odell's and sit in the street on their outdoor patio.
Totally.
She didn't know this was changing, and she was quite upset. She joined the rally instead of having a beer.
It was a really one of those nice days too. It was maybe 60 degrees. I had my front door open, so it was the perfect afternoon for a beer on a patio in a street.
Yeah, and a little protest bike ride, which is what these bike people did. They gathered, a couple of them made some speeches. There was probably between 100 and 150 people, I would say. And then they rode their bikes from this block of Larimer all the way down to Larimer Square, which is now the only remaining car-free street in the city. And then they came back. And I would shout out just one of them in particular I thought was interesting. This guy, Andy Cushon, who I've talked to a few times now. He helped organize the rally. He goes by Build Up Denver on X and Blue Sky, which is a great follow if you care about the city. But he made a speech that was pretty stirring, I thought. He was really fired up about this. And he made this point that, we can get into the process of why this happened, but he was just saying, look at what's happened to these car-free streets since they started in 2020. One by one, we've lost these spaces. This was an unprecedented shift in modality for the city, sparked by the pandemic, and it is slowly being rolled back. And it's because the city doesn't want it. And that's the point he made. If the city wanted this, if the mayor wanted this, if council wanted this, if people really were excited about this, we could have it. But as we're seeing one by one, they don't.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that. I really enjoyed these kinds of things, especially as a parent. It's just really nice to have open outdoor space to take your kids. And like, again, maybe you want to go get a drink or do something. You're not like in a bar with your kids. You can take them out and give them space to be free. And it is a bummer. It is interesting to think about the Larimer at between 14th and 15th is the only one that's left now in all of Denver.
The city does have a process now where you can like file a permit and you have to do a mobility study. And so like it is an option available for neighborhood groups to apply to shut down a street. I think they're working on doing this in that strip at the Pavilions downtown right off 16th Street.
Total sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're working on that, but I'm not sure where that's at.
Well, so there was a lot of chatter online that this was like sort of the work of a few cranky business owners, but this kind of decision just doesn't come out of nowhere. And I know you talked to someone at the RiNo Business Improvement District, which is intertwined with the RiNo Art District, about how this decision was made. Can you give us sort of the too long didn't read of like how the street was closed in the first place and then how the decision was made to reopen it?
Yeah, I mean, I can try. Why the street was closed in the first place, I mean, it was the pandemic thing, like we talked about 5 years ago. It was part of the citywide program. But the question of why it was reopened has been really hard to pin down because it's embroiled in this like neighborhood conflict that's been happening in RiNo over the past year or so. So that's what I talked to Adam Larkey, who's the new chair of the RiNo BID. And the BID, which is a business improvement district, this is an organization that collects some money from property owners and business owners, a little bit of tax in the neighborhood. And what they do is they give money to the arts district, which executes their priorities. And so they're supposed to do things that benefit all the businesses in the city. And that's exactly what the debate has been over the last year is what should they be spending money on? And last fall, there was this big vote and a big debate within this community of business and property owners about what that should be because the bid needed to be renewed after its first 10 years. And so there was this huge debate. And apparently, according to Adam Larkey, that's really when this decision got made, is there were a few business owners who really just did not think that this car-free block was good for all the businesses in the bid. And they pushed back, and there were a lot of emails back and forth, and there were some hurt feelings, and that's when the bid decided to reallocate money away from the car-free block in 2025. Now, according to Adam, what they did was they transferred the permit for this block to a new nonprofit that was led by just the businesses on the block itself. So just like the Odell's, the Heaven Creamery, the Shake Shack, I don't know how involved Shake Shack was, but Ratio Brew Works, the Block Distilling, just the businesses on the street. And it was those businesses that allowed the permit to expire last Friday. Now, I spoke with one of the opponents who actually only talked to me on the condition of anonymity because he's afraid of reprisals and boycotts of his businesses, which some of these bike advocates are talking about doing online. I mean, you can find these forums, but he basically said that he thought the car-free block was bad for business in the neighborhood. I mean, he acknowledged that it might be good for some of the people on the block, but because he thought Larimer is such an important thoroughfare, it was actually bad for his business. So take that for what you will.
Well, this is very frustrating, I feel, because I guess from my perspective, these kinds of projects are really cool, but when they get taken away like this, I worry that it makes it harder for neighborhoods like mine that really struggle with traffic deaths to even have a conversation about doing something like this. Like this just makes it a little bit harder, I think. So,
well, maybe. I mean, it depends on the people. If the people are excited about it and they can get a big community together and get overwhelming support for it, it's totally possible. It really just depends on how engaged you can get your people to be behind something like this. I think the problem is that generally there is a divide on this, and I think it's a generational divide. There's another person who's a part of this who we should talk about, John Deffenbaugh.
Oh, yeah. From Historic
he's the
Denver.
Current head of Historic Denver. But this whole car-free block in Larimer, this is kind of his baby. He used to work for the RiNo BID. Like he spearheaded this project. So after the RiNo Arts District announced this, he emailed us and got in touch, and he was really upset about this whole thing. And I actually talked to him on Sunday for more of his perspective. But he essentially accused and I'm going to just quote from his email that he sent to City Council. He said, "Sadly, I now write to you because the bullying and harassment that a limited number of adjacent and wealthy landowners has instigated towards the local businesses in the 2900 block and also towards my former colleagues at the RiNo bid now threatens the continued closure of the block."
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's what he told me. I mean, I asked him for a little more details. He said that these landowners were basically the same people who were against the way that the bid was spending money and led this whole like conversation back in the fall, and that they wanted to see the bid do stuff like fund things more like a traditional neighborhood, like trash pickups, security, like things that would be more in line with focusing on like cleanliness, safety, hygienic factors, things you hear other neighborhoods talking about right now, where traditionally what the RiNo bid has focused on, they've emphasized culture, they've emphasized local events, they've really emphasized the arts. So that's what he said, is he said the same people that are pushing for a change in priorities were also the ones leading the charge against the car-free block.
I'm not surprised, I guess I would just say there that I think you hit it on the head. It might be generational. It's just a school of thought divide.
Totally. I mean, that's what it sounded like. I've read some of the emails that we're talking about. A source connected to this story forwarded me some of these emails where these business owners were allegedly bullying and harassing. Now, I don't know what else went on. All I saw with these emails, but I don't know if I saw bullying there. I saw brusque emailing for sure that could be construed as rudeness, like in the right context or depending on who you are. Like, the kind of emails where it's just like 2 lines and then sent from my iPhone. If you have a genuine disagreement with someone and then that's your tactic of communicating with people, I could see how that would exacerbate problems around real disagreements.
Yeah, and I also just think that this gets to the complexities of a business improvement district. This is not a governing body elected by the people the way city council is, but it represents a collection of businesses and everybody has to be on the same page. And sometimes you're just really not.
Yep. And that was Adam Larkey's message too. He said he really just wants to keep the peace. He wants everybody moving in the same direction to get the business activity back to RiNo. They feel competition. RiNo used to be the hot neighborhood where everybody wanted to open a business. Now Cherry Creek's got the energy.
Yeah. And that's interesting. And Cherry Creek actually has a car-free street too. Well, maybe can you drive on that section of Fillmore? There's a section that's like bricked off and they close it off a lot for various events. But I would definitely say it's not as easy to drive through Cherry Creek as it is through RiNo. And I wonder if part of that is the appeal, is that it is more pedestrian friendly.
Maybe.
I had an interesting experience this weekend when I went to the Lunar New Year Festival at the Far East Center, which is in a giant parking lot, and they don't shut it down to cars. And there were,
oh, that's weird.
It's super weird. And there were, I swear, Paul, there was at least 3 times as many people this year as I saw last year. I think part because the weather was really nice and last year it was like blizzarding. But there were cars coming in and out and the cars were confused. The police had to get involved. There were so many people and it was just like, why are there cars in this space? And then I read, I think Tron Nguyen Wills, who's a former guest of ours who works for the mayor on community outreach projects, was saying they're hoping to make, she's working on the business improvement district or the international district that they're working on around that section of Federal, the like little Saigon area. And a lot of it is pedestrian improvements. And I just wonder if next year maybe they'll think about closing it off to cars. But who knows? Interesting ongoing conversation in this city. Who wins, cars or people? All right. Well,
cars.
Yeah, cars, clearly.
Right now, cars. Cars win on this block of Larimer.
Yeah, that's a bummer to me.
Although I should say the neighbors in this nonprofit that now like owned the permit and chose not to renew it. I talked to one guy, Craig Weaver, who's the co-founder of the Block Distilling, just to put a button on this. He said that they are interested in renewing that permit and getting it shut down to cars again. They're trying to work with the city on this. That they chose not to renew it, he said, because they wanted to be good neighbors. Again, to your point of like businesses working together and collaborating. But he says that they do want to do it. The majority of the businesses on the block loved it and they want to bring it back.
Really?
So there is hope for the folks who loved that car-free block that it will return.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Well, we should follow up with that gentleman in 6 months or something and see how it's going.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, our next story. the Colfax Swastika window situation. This is a saga. It's been happening over the last week on a building on the southeast corner of Colfax and Josephine, I believe.
Yep, the Austin building across from the
building.
Carla Madison Rec Center.
Yes. So now it's had 2 swastikas appear on its third floor windows. It looks like in one unit because this is housing on the third floor. The first...
Is it housing?
I believe so. Yeah. I believe it's housing on the third floor. Because there's like someone on Reddit was like digging up who the rental company was and whatnot. The first incident
I'll put an asterisk on that one.
Okay.
Maybe it's housing.
I'm pretty sure.
Some Reddit person, maybe.
I'm pretty sure it is. The first incident happened, I think, last Monday, if I'm correctly remembering, which was Holocaust Remembrance Day. What do we know, Paul? The swastika appeared.
Well, we know someone smashed the first window,
right?
And then whoever is in that building put up another one, and maybe a third. Although I think the picture I saw might have been AI. I really don't know. I haven't driven over there myself to see it.
Oh, there was a potential third.
I think there might be a whole third swastika.
Wow.
Yeah.
Police were initially investigating as a bias-motivated crime. Now they're investigating the window being broken, and now they're probably going to be investigating this second and maybe third swastika.
And I might, dare to guess, another window smashing.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if that has not happened already or if someone is not thinking about it. That's quite a throw, though, I will say. Somebody's got an arm on him to get it up to the third window, the third floor.
That's where, like I said, I'm skeptical of the Redditor. I'm honestly a little skeptical of this whole situation. Everything about this.
Say more.
I no longer, I just think there's a deeper story happening here. Like, for the person to put up a swastika, okay, whatever. You got some extreme views. I don't like them. Most people don't like them. You got your window smashed in. All right. But then to put up another one, knowing that it would probably get smashed, and then maybe a third one.
Yeah.
Like, who is this person? Why are they doing this? I think this is a troll. That's my theory right now. I think this is a big troll who's just trying to start fights and cause problems. Just a troll.
And touch on the political climate that already feels tense around this issue in particular of anti-Semitism. Which is an ongoing problem. It's not new or anything. Interesting. I don't understand it, I guess. And I would agree in the sense that this is an easy troll. In that you can really make people very fired up with good reason. This is a symbol of that's terrifying. But yeah, as for motive or what's really going on here, I don't know.
Why would you put up another swastika knowing your window's going to get smashed? You may as well smash your own window. Why are you doing this?
To be a troll? I don't know.
To be a troll. Exactly. That's what I think.
I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. If you have any thoughts on this as listeners, we'd love to hear from you. You can give us a call, 720-500-5418. I don't want to undermine the fact that this is a very serious situation. It's a serious topic, and it makes a lot of people uneasy for absolutely good reason. But I'd be curious to see hear what listeners think about the origins of this or who this person is or why they're doing it. Our number 720-500-5418. Speaking of, we love to hear from you, our brilliant and hilarious listeners, about the things that you care about. So every Tuesday, we like to share a comment or answer one of your questions that come through the CityCast Denver hotline. This time, we've got, is this an email, Paul? Yes.
Yeah.
We have an email. Do you want to read this first email?
Sure. Tracy R. writes, I am pissed off about Trump and ICE and all that BS. I wondered if you know of any marches or demonstrations that are going to be on to show the Republicans this is not okay. I have called and emailed Congress and the Republican Party, wondering if there is a good way to let my anger out and have it be productive. Let me know if there is a resource or event that is happening. I know of one.
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, there's a march happening on Wednesday at the Capitol. I don't know exactly when during the day. I'll put a link to the poster I saw online in the show notes. But yeah, there's a whole there's organizing going on in all 50 states is I think the issue of protests at all the state capitals. But Wednesday, February 5th.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw something in the Denver protest subreddit about this. I would also just recommend checking out denverdsa.org if you're looking for anti-Trump protests. They're often organizing, and you can get on their email list and stuff for more information about that particular take. But yeah, definitely. We'll put more information in the show notes for sure. Okay, I'll read this next one from Laura in Congress Park. Texted, listening to the King Soopers episode from earlier this week, and I have my thoughts on Kroger, but my comment is on eggs. I've been vegan for more than 10 years, so full transparency on my biases, but Just Egg liquid egg substitute is truly indistinguishable when you bake it, scramble it, and it's always in stock and remarkably price stable. Just saying, compared to $12 a dozen, it deserves a try. Paul is a person who's been in the vegetarian-ish world for a long time. What do you think about this recommendation?
I mean, I appreciate it. I can't say I've ever tried this product, Just Egg liquid egg substitute. Sounds like something that could be good. I mean, I paid $8.49 for a dozen eggs last time I was at the store, so
It could be a good
I'm interested.
price-saving measure. Awesome.
Yeah. Also, I mean, we're still watching the King Soopers strike situation. I mean, they haven't called a strike yet, but the votes over the last week or so were like overwhelmingly to authorize a strike. So we could see that any day now, I think.
Yeah, we'll be watching that this week as well. Well, Paul, thanks for joining me.
See you next time, Bree.
After we recorded this show, the union representing King Soopers employees across Denver and the Front Range announced that workers will go on a planned 2-week strike starting at 5 a.m. this Thursday. We will be following the story as it develops. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. Are you a King Soopers shopper? Do you plan to boycott the store in support of the strike? What do you think the company should be doing? Let us know on the Strike is On hotline at 720-500-5418. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell your friend with all those unpaid parking tickets about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. And if you love the show, come see us in person at Heyday, an indoor fair with urban flair on Saturday, March 8th. Get your tickets now at heydaydenver.com. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later.